Fifi Mangaka here. Today, we're going to be talking about how and why I redesigned my character Kenzi Akimoto from my manga Olde Treehouse, and chatting about iterative planning in story writing and character design. Character design is so important in storytelling, and it really affects the audience's perception of your story. Seeing as though Kenzi is a main character in Olde Treehouse, it's really important that I nail her design and really convey what I'm trying to get across with her character in that design. Character redesigns are just a natural part of the creative process and really help you to refine your story and its themes. And as I was designing Kenzi originally, I knew at some point I was going to wind up redesigning her eventually, and the time came when I created this live draw. Why I needed to redesign her. So there are a few things that are different about Kenzi's design. Her hair is shorter, it's a little bit more frayed. She has a more mature pose, a more mature look to her face. She's taller. The color of her dress has changed, and a few other little highlights here and there that are quite different from what I originally created. One of the main reasons why I decided to redesign Kenzi is that as I was developing some of the story themes, I realized that Kenzi definitely needs to be aged up in order for the impact of some of these themes to be the same, essentially. I didn't want her to be a child that was being babysitted by the other main protagonists, and at this point in the story, it wouldn't make sense for me to make her more mature in order to make some of those themes work. So I decided ultimately to make her an older character. Basically, Kenzi went from being about 10 years old to now somewhere in the 16-year-old range. I think it's really important to be consistent in the character design, and it can really affect the story's believability. And for me, because some of the situations that Kenzi will be in Olde Treehouse are not really situations for a 10-year-old, it made sense to me to age her character. Another thing, and this is me calling myself out here, is I realized Kenzi was falling into the useless female character trope. Because she is a child, and in the beginning of the story, she doesn't really contribute much by way of combat, it really seemed as though she was being babysat by the other main characters, and I really don't want to fall into the trope of Kenzi always being saved by some stronger, more important character. So she had to change. Going into some literal differences about her design, I'm working on the clothing right now, so we'll start there. I wanted to keep a Sailor Hookuh theme or a magical girl theme for Kenzi's outfit, but I realized in my original design she wound up looking a little bit more like a Barbie than a magical girl. So in this design, I emphasized the skirt to be a little bit more Sailor Hookuh themed so that you can see that that's really what I'm trying to go for with her design. Additionally, and we'll see this when I get to the color part, I changed the dress color from pink to being blue. I felt that Kenzi's blonde hair with the pink dress just immediately reminded me of Barbie, and Kenzi is the farthest thing from a Barbie doll. So I knew that I had to change that color as well. Going back to her hair, and which I've already inked that part, but going back to her hair, I made her hair shorter. I removed the braids and I gave her a little bit more of a nimble look because, as I'll talk about later, Kenzi's personality fits more of that nimble, moving quickly, hiding in the shadows, maybe stealing things from people, sort of mischievous personality. And so the short hair to me fit better. I had a lot of difficulty picking the overall color scheme for Kenzi's hair, and I think I went back and forth a million times between silver and black and red, and basically any color you can think of before I ultimately landed back on blonde, which was originally what I had designed for her character. Something that was really important for me that I realized after I went back to redesign her was that I really do want a color synergy or color sync between all the main protagonists. Not necessarily that I want them each to represent a different color, but I do want there to be some sort of association between each protagonist and a particular color. Since Rue's hair is already this peach pinkish color, I thought giving Kenzi a blue dress would kind of associate her with more of a blue motif. As I was playing around with all of the portraits that I drew and putting them together in one Clip Studio document to see how they look together, I realized just how incredibly out of place Kenzi looked, and this was one of the biggest things that made me feel like I need to redesign her. The rest of them look like they belong together, that they should be standing together, but Kenzi is so incredibly out of place. And part of that was kind of the color direction that I had for her original design when it was side by side with the other protagonists. This is something that I'm kind of experimenting with a little bit, but I do think that there is some really great psychology between colors syncing between character designs and just associations that syncing may give to viewers and readers. I think it also perhaps helps helps readers just have that mental remembrance and association of a character too when they are associated with a color. I don't have evidence for that, but this is just something that I feel, and so I'm experimenting with that in my designs. Okay, let's talk about Kenzi's personality and how me spending more time with her character kind of allowed me to get some direction on how exactly to redesign her. So originally, when I created Kenzi, I made her kind of the child that doesn't know what's going on, that's being dragged along on this insane journey, that doesn't really have any skills, at least not that anyone can tell. And for a good chunk of the beginning of the story, she will essentially be being taken care of by some of the other characters in the cast. And at the time, at that stage where I was in the story, this made sense. But as I started developing some more important themes and important situations that happen in the story, I started to realize that actually, no, this doesn't make sense at all. And like I said, I don't want to fall into this useless female character trope with Kenzi. So I started to think about exactly what type of personality I want her to have, what sorts of feelings I want her character to evoke. And I realized that, I don't want her to be this sort of inexperienced, shy character. Referring to my video on the Freudian trio, Kenzi is supposed to represent the id, and the id is the impulsive nature. It's the side that wants to do everything and think later. It's the side that goes by desires and passions as opposed to logic. With that in mind, I knew, okay, I really need to revisit this overall theme for Kenzi's personality. I started to think about some characters that I like that I feel really represented this new shift in personality that I wanted Kenzi to have. I wanted her to be more adventurous. I wanted her to be impulsive. I wanted her to be sneaky and mischievous, but only to do the right thing and to get what the party needs if they're stuck and in a bind. So with that being said, I took those elements into consideration with her design, and honestly, the design is wholly inspired by this change in personality that I decided when I was quote unquote spending more time with Kenzi's character. Finally, I wanted to touch on how iterative character design is definitely something that you should expect and something that you should welcome when you're creating your own stories or character designs. For each and every one of my protagonists, with the exception of Vex probably, I think I've gone through some sort of iterative change to their design. And I really welcome that because that means to me that I'm evolving my story and I'm evolving the expectations of my main players in my story. And this means that I'm refining my themes and possibly even getting closer to solidifying some things too. So if you find yourself creating characters and then going back to the drawing board later and changing things, even if it's something small or maybe massive like the change in Kenzi's design, I think that as indie writers and indie artists who are creating stories, we should really welcome that sort of change and look at it as we are refining the expectations that we have for our stories and we're understanding our stories a little bit better. So that's all I have for today. If you liked this video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this and progress updates on Olde Treehouse. I really appreciate all the support and it's so fun and great making these videos for you. And with that, I'll leave you with the rest of the speed draw of Kenzi. Bye!